really value doing is sharing our stories and being able to share when we come together and worship Christ together and share what God has been doing in our lives. And so we get to hear about what God has been doing in each of our lives and our hearts. And so we do this thing called Snapshot. And so today's Snapshot is going to be by Kelton Allen. And I'm really stoked to introduce him to you guys. He's been a part of our community for a little under a year-ish, but you've been around. And I've been really valuing getting to know Kelton. He and I have been meeting together for lunch every other week or so. And it's been really cool to see just Kelton's heart for God, and I just know that that'll be evident when he shares his story with you. So, Kelton.
You're too kind. So, yeah, for those of you that don't know me, my name is Kelton. I'm Lily's boyfriend. That might also just be how you know me. But I'm more than just that. I'm a whole person. But yeah, I'm just going to tell you a little bit about what God's done in my life. So for, again, those of you that don't know me, I graduated in 2021 from Virginia Tech. And I worked my first year out of college for a different campus ministry. No shade, but God taught me a lot through that experience, and I just want to share that with you. He taught me first some things about myself, and then second some things about him. But yeah, I was so excited. I was like, okay, I'm going to work in ministry. I get to do the things that I love with this community that I've come to know and love, and I'm so excited. And then after about 2 weeks, 2 days, something like that, he kind of showed me that I'm not perfect, if you can believe it. I had a lot of days where I was like, I am so tired. I don't know how to focus on God. I don't know how to stay awake at prayer meetings. I don't feel very spiritual when we're praying. Like, I'm having so much trouble. This feels more like a job than like I'm growing in relationship with God and leading others to him. And so this question started circling around in my head. Like, where's God when blank? And I think it's something we've all kind of dealt with. And you can fill in that blank with anything. Like, where's God when I'm depressed? Where's God when I'm not feeling it or I can't focus? Where's God when I can't find rest? Where I feel like I'm doing everything I can and I don't feel like I'm hearing from God. Like, I feel like I'm holding up my end of the bargain. Like, what's going on? And that's where the teaching kind of started. So the first couple things God taught me about myself, big one for those of you that are students still, I needed a calendar. That was a hard lesson for me, but he made it so easy. Like, literally, my work was like, here's your calendar. It's a Google Calendar. We put everything on it for you. And that was still hard for me. All I had to do was look at it. But, baby steps. Second thing, God just showed me I have limits. I think a lot of the unease and like the irritation from being tired and feeling like there was so much going on, it was just my love of comfort and ease kind of bubbling up. I had to get rid of some of that. People like to use that, it builds character, like hard times, it builds character. And it is true. It's much easier to say it than to live it. But it is true. He built a lot of character. I understood that I don't have to be in charge. And that's kind of the last thing he taught me about myself. I really liked control and being in a spot where basically my job is like, hey, here's what you're doing today. It might change. That was hard for me to accept, but that's where the calendar came into play. That's where a lot of other things came into play. He showed me to be humble and to ask for prayer and to be broken. And that's where he started showing me more about himself, how he meets me where I am. So I'm sure for those of you that grew up in the church, you've heard the 3 O's about God. He's omniscient, omnipresent, and omnipowerful. So he knows everything. He is everywhere, and he's all-powerful. You hear it a lot, but it's kind of hard to understand sometimes. But he taught me a lot. He taught me that it's okay. Like, he's not afraid of my emotions. He's a good, good father. And so when it'd be late at night and I wanted nothing more to go to bed than to go to bed, I would just go on walks sometimes, and I still do that now. And I'll just kind of respectfully complain to God. Be like, hey, this is how I feel, and I don't know what to do. So you're going to have to do something because that's all I got. And he's so kind to take that. I learned a lot from other people that year about how they interact with God, and he taught me that he wants to meet me in a unique way. He's all around me, and I have a good example of this, actually. My roommate last year, he was just so in love with the Lord, and he would drop these little nuggets of wisdom, and I felt like my head was spinning just trying to keep up, because he's so quiet. So like, if you don't listen, you just miss it. One time we were walking, and he was just looking around in fall at the season I hate the most, and he was like, I love it. I love it all. And I was like, what is wrong with you? And he goes, he's like, I can read leaves. Did you know that? And I was like, all right, this seems like we're getting into some dangerous territory here. What do you mean you can read leaves? And he takes one off a tree and he goes, all right, I'll read this one for you. It says, I love you, love God. And I was like, what? And for him, like nature, getting out in creation is like how he just loves to spend time with God, because he's like, dude, I love seeing the way that God makes everything work. He gives me the colors. I get this little reminder of our amazing creator every time I see a leaf fall from a tree. And I was like, thank you so much for that. Like, I was about in tears by Pritchard, like just sitting with him. But some other things that God showed me is like the unique ways that he meets everybody else and the ways that he can meet me. So I brought up like my walks. I met somebody who likes to go on runs with Jesus. And I was like, you work out with Jesus? And she's like, yeah. And I get my earbuds in and I just go for it. I was like, you listen to music and you run with Jesus? She's like, yeah, he talks over it. It's no big deal. I was like, what am I missing out on? Running's not necessarily my thing, but God has just met me so much in the things that I can do, like walk. He's met me when I'm broken with him, and he's just held me every step of the way. And so I just want to encourage you that if you feel like you're not spiritual enough, you're not focused, you're not connected, like God's got something in store for you. Just invite him in the most kind and respectful way possible. I've learned that God's kind of like a vampire. He's hovering there, and he's just waiting for you to invite him in. He's not going to hurt you. He just wants to be with you. He wants to be with his children. And so I'm Kelton, and that's my snapshot.